So it's going to be up to us on January 6th, 2025 to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we need bodyguards for everybody in Civil War conditions.
Yes, Democrat Congressman Jamie Raskin, election denier, one of many Democrats. They love denying the presidential elections that they lose. You know, if Joe Biden had not received 4 years ago a record-shattering number of votes, then Joe Biden would have presided over the process on Capitol Hill to affirm Donald Trump as the re-elected president of the United States. By the way, Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, has announced that he is resigning. He hasn't technically resigned yet. He's announced that he will be resigning as the head of party, the Liberal Party, a very left-wing Liberal Party in Canada. They're providing all kinds of military and economic security because they're our neighbor to the north, our largest national park, America's hat. But setting that aside for the time being, the January 6th anniversary, and 4 years later, we have the process taking place on Capitol Hill today. 4 years ago today, there was a bit of a dust-up on Capitol Hill, and Ashley Babbitt was shot and killed by a U.S. Capitol police officer after serving 12 years in the United States Air Force honorably. A patriotic American woman shot at point-blank range by a U.S. Capitol police officer, and the Democrats applauded. They finally found a police shooting they approved of because she wasn't a career criminal assaulting police or shooting people or looting stores. She was a patriotic American that served 12 years in the United States military, and she was accused of trespassing. So naturally, you shoot to kill, point-blank range. Democrats approved of that. January 6th, Democrats love January 6th. There are all kinds of things to say about it, of course. The Washington Post today, they have story after story on January 6th. They're all over the place because it's been 4 years, and again, we've got the same process taking place on Capitol Hill today, and Kamala Harris will preside over the affirmation of the election of Donald Trump, the re-election of Donald Trump to the presidency of the United States. So they put up giant fences all around the Capitol because they love a police state, too. They're the left. The Washington Post, their lead editorial today, new report does not justify January 6th pardons. Now, who did Joe Biden just pardon? Didn't he just pardon, people on, all the people on federal death row just got it. They're no longer in line for death. Hey, isn't that amazing? Who else did Joe Biden pardon? He just pardoned a whole bunch of presidential pardons. And hey, if you're on federal death row, Joe Biden wants to be sure that you never actually are put to death for the murders, the terrorism, the savagery, the kidnappings, the torture, rape, murders. Joe Biden is there for you. But the Washington Post today, a new report does not justify January 6th pardons. And hey, Washington Post, the riots at the White House in 2020 when the Democrats were burning cities from coast to coast. The President of the United States and the first family were evacuated to the nuclear bunker beneath the White House, and 160 to 180 police were injured. The Democrats torched the Church of the Presidents, and not one person was sentenced to any time in jail. No prison time for any of those rioters attacking the White House for 3 days. The attacks on the White House, organized, orchestrated, people brought in from around the country. And a new report does not justify January 6 pardons. That's the lead story here, the editorial page, the Washington Post. Justice Department Inspector General Michael E. Horowitz concluded last month that no undercover FBI employees were at the Capitol on January 6, 2021, nor at the rally on the Ellipse preceding the riot. They're playing word games here. He also revealed that the Bureau had 26 informants, confidential human informants, 26. How about Ray Epps inciting people to go into the Capitol the night before January 6th on the streets of Washington? Ray Epps was encouraging people to attack violently, go into the Capitol, and on the day they're at the Capitol, and no prison sentence for him. Huh. Isn't that fascinating? Yet, how many? More than 1,000 people have been arrested and charged by the federal government. He also revealed that the Bureau had 26 informants. Very careful. They want to downplay it at the Washington Post. Confidential human informants who were paid by the FBI. They were in D.C. that day, but only 3 of them had been tasked by the FBI field offices to be in the city. While they entered restricted areas at the Capitol, none were authorized to do so or to encourage others to break the law. And were any of those confidential informants who went into the Capitol, and were they charged with crimes? No. But they say the Inspector General concluded that no undercover FBI employees, but dozens of FBI informants on the payroll were there. And the Washington Post goes on and on to say, 4 years after the insurrection, every attack on a courthouse by the Democrats, an insurrection, every attack on a police station by the Democrats because of St. George Floyd, an insurrection. It's an attack, a violent attack on established authority. 4 years after the insurrection, and the Washington Post doesn't get into the fact that the FBI released video of the guy putting pipe bombs at the DNC and RNC headquarters 4 years ago, and still no suspects. And they released video yesterday or night before last. Hey, here's the guy. Anybody know anything about him? 4 years later, you are all so fired. God, are you people fired? Man, oh man. 4 years after the insurrection, federal agents have continued to make arrests. On December 19th, a Florida man was charged with assaulting a D.C. police officer with a baseball baton. What's a baseball baton? I've never, is that like a little souvenir baseball bat? Is that what they're telling you? What planet are these people from? A baseball baton. And they continue to make arrests, but not for the assault on the White House and torching the Church of the Presidents and forcing the evacuation of the president and the first family. No arrests, no convictions, no jail sentences, no prison sentences. Not one. Isn't that amazing? And they're continuing to arrest people, a man in Florida, 4 years later, but nothing for May 30th, May 31st, and June 1st of 2020, the assault on the White House. Nearly 1,600 individuals from almost every state have been charged with federal crimes during the 47 months since the attack. Isn't that amazing? Including about 600 on charges of assaulting or impeding law enforcement, but none for the riots in Washington, D.C., the assault on the White House, the evacuation of the president, torching the church. None, not a one. Isn't that amazing? That's the two systems of justice that we're talking about. And there have been in the last, let's count 2020 and George Floyd, 551 riots, violent riots in the United States. 550 of them by Democrats. One, not by Democrats. One at the Capitol. At least one, but for 3 days, at the White House. And more all over Washington, assaulting government buildings, businesses, looting, assaults on police, M80s, explosives being thrown at the police, frozen water bottles, full urine bottles. No jail sentences for them. None. Isn't that amazing? And new report does not justify January 6 pardons. You're right, the new report doesn't. But the big picture does. And for how many years are they supposed to sit in these gulags run by the Democrats? Also, Joe Biden has an op-ed in the Washington Post today written by someone else The headline there is, again, you've got 26 confidential FBI informants, but they didn't do anything wrong. Were they inside? What? And only 3 of them were tasked with being there. So the FBI tasked people with infiltrating and being there, and they're on the FBI payroll. And a total of 26 confidential informants. The other 23 just came on their own. Were they paid for being there? Because they're paid for being confidential human informants. Joe Biden is an idiot. Somebody wrote an op-ed and put his name on it in the Washington Post. What Americans need to remember about January 6th, that it was one of more than 500 riots, and every single one of them was a Democrat riot. Love of George Floyd, hatred of police, love of looting, right? You got Loot, Loot, Lemon and Louis Vuitton and sacking banks. And I was there, the Trump inauguration on Pennsylvania Avenue, and Democrats were smashing storefronts, burned that limousine that belonged to a foreign Muslim immigrant trying to make a living in the United States. But Joe Biden today, we must heed the wisdom of the adage that any nation that forgets its past is doomed to repeat it. I don't think that's the adage, but never mind that. We cannot accept a repeat of what occurred 4 years ago when you got a record number of votes in the history of the country, much more than Hillary Clinton, much more than Barack Obama. Is that why we can't? Let's not repeat it. All right, so I guess Joe Biden's saying the Democrats shouldn't attack the Capitol, even though they attacked the White House and they attacked police stations and courthouses, and those are all insurrections. Where is Ray Epps? So Joe Biden, as president-elect that day, I spoke to the country and called for peace and for the certification to resume. Yeah, it was already happening on Capitol Hill. It didn't do it because of you. 4 years later, leaving office after losing to Donald Trump, I am determined to do everything I can to respect the peaceful transfer of power, restore the traditions we have long respected in America. This election will be certified peacefully. I have invited the incoming president to the White House on the morning of January 20th and will be present for his inauguration that afternoon. But on this day, we cannot forget. This is what we owe to those who founded this nation, those who have fought for it and died for it. Now, I won't get into the many lies that he's told about all of that, but violent insurrectionists attacked the Capitol. Violent insurrectionists attacked the White House, and not a single one of them was sentenced to a single night in prison. Isn't that amazing? I'm telling you. But, you know, when you're a Democrat, it's different. Things are different for Democrats. Very, very different. I've got a bunch of audio I still need to get to for you. We got FBI and counterterrorism, because the terrorist attacks under Joe Biden by former members of the U.S. military. Isn't that amazing? So it must be the Army's fault. No, it's the Democrats. And another Democrat self-immolated outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. He was trying to murder a lot of other people in the process with nail bombs and in a Tesla vehicle. I parked in front of one of those the other day in Washington, driving with my best girl. We were going shopping to the store. One of those Teslas there. And I said to my best girl, I said, if we see the driver come out, I'm going to ask him if it's rented. Is that because this guy rented the Tesla to blow it up? And the media is trying to make him out to be a Republican and a Trump guy. Right. That's why he self-immolated in an Elon Musk vehicle at a Trump hotel. Right. With a suicide bomb. Sure. Now that's coming up. The all-new third-generation Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier is finally here, and it builds on the incredible success of previous generations and earned thousands of five-star reviews, quickly became a bestseller, no time at all. This new Eden Pure Thunderstorm, I have one at home, uses two different technologies that studies have shown help to quickly kill up to 99.9% of bacteria and viruses in the air. It also removes dust and pet stuff and smoke and a whole lot more out of the air that you breathe and helps get rid of any odor. No filters to buy and replace over and over again. A compact unit. You can hold it in your hand just like this. The Thunderstorm will help get rid of any stinky smell, guaranteed odors from trash cans, cigarette smoke, a teenager's room, left-wing protesters. Any smell will disappear after just a few seconds with the Thunderstorm. And right now, you can save $200 American on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for a whole home protection. Or you can give one as a gift. Put one in your basement, your bedroom, your family room, any place you like to breathe clean, fresh air. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code CHRIS3, CHRIS, and the number 3 to save $200 on 3 Thunderstorms. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is CHRIS3. Yes, sir. Yeah, January 6th. The Democrats love January 6th. Literally, no exaggeration, more than 500 riots by them. At least 24 people murdered. Thousands of businesses destroyed. But January 6th is the only riot they can remember. I'm beginning to think none of their brains work very well. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at WashingtonTimes.com/Chris. Ah, yes, the big inauguration is coming up. January 6th, today. Democrats are really fond of this date. The FBI doing a hack job in New Orleans after a radical Islamic jihadi terrorist attack. The news media wants to focus on the fact that the jihadi actually served in the U.S. military. He did. Then another psychopath who also served in the U.S. military self-immolated and blew himself up with a suicide bomb in an Elon Musk Tesla vehicle at a Trump hotel property in Las Vegas, Nevada. The only one killed was the suicidal psychopath, and the media, they want to say, well, he was a Trump guy. Yeah, sure he was. That's why that makes a lot of sense. So we've got that coming up, and also the nominations, President Trump's nominations for cabinet positions and other senior government posts. Very much in play on Capitol Hill here in Washington. And a lot to say about that coming up as well. We've got Chuck Schumer, the Lizard King, and Joe Biden's Presidential Medals of Freedom for George Soros and Hillary Diane Rodham Clinton. The news media is very upset that President Trump says that he will pardon people that have been sentenced to ridiculous jail sentences for January 6th. And nobody was sentenced to a jail sentence for the attacks on the White House, the violent mob attacks on the White House, because Democrats run Washington, D.C., Mayor Muriel Bowser, who had a meeting with President Trump recently. I saw it was at Mar-a-Lago. Why did she went down to Mar-a-Lago on our dollar, no doubt. Amazing stuff. Very, very upset. And George Soros with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, because he's gotten so many people murdered in the United States. The Democrats love murder. They raise their children, to be murderers and things. Sorry, a little sip of water there. I don't do that very often. A little sip of water. I drink water during the breaks and things, but not. All right, so here's, let's go to audio, Mike. Let's go to number 4. The now Senator Adam Schiff, who was a member of the House of Representatives, where he became widely known as the biggest liar in Washington, the number one liar. What a liar this man is. And Adam Schiff was on Face the Meat yesterday. Is it Face the Meat? He was on Meet the Press yesterday. Is that Press the Meat? Hang on a second. It's Meet the Press. He was on Meet the Press. It used to be an NBC News product. And now Senator Adam Schiff got a big promotion, and he is a racist, and he hates Indian Americans. Kash Patel is in line to become President Trump's FBI director. And apparently Adam Schiff wants to block him, wants to obstruct him, because Adam Schiff is prejudiced, he's racist, and you know that they're going to come after Tulsi Gabbard, who is nominated to be Director of National Intelligence. They're going to come after Robert F. Kennedy. I think 2 Democrat senators have said they might think about going with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to be at Health and Human Services. What can he really do? It's HHS, Health and Human Services. Kash Patel nominated to be FBI Director, and Lori Chavez Derrimer to be the Secretary of Labor. And these are in the on the short list for the confirmation process. And, of course, Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon for Secretary of Defense at the entire Department of Defense. And the Democrats will try to sabotage, undermine. Speaking of sabotage, again, Joe Biden, by executive order now, has ordered that there will be no offshore drilling for gas or oil in a sweeping ban. Biden issues sweeping offshore oil, gas drilling ban. 625 million acres of federal waters ahead of Trump's transition. That's because he's a saboteur. I think Vladimir Putin asked him to do this because it'll be good news for Putin if the United States could not explore, find, discover, extract, and bring to market cheap and abundant energy. Putin loves this news. The Chinese communists love this news. And the Russians and the Chinese have funneled millions of dollars into the Biden family coffers. Pay no attention to that. The Venezuelans will love this news. Biden champions the action as win for climate change. Our energy, by the way, burns cleaner. This is actually true. Our oil burns cleaner than Russian oil. Their oil puts more garbage into the air. So the energy is going to be used. It's better to use our cleaner energy rather than their dirtier energy. And everything the Democrats say they're doing leads to the opposite of the stated or allegedly intended results. Just extraordinary stuff. And this is an effort to sabotage Trump. And Trump's team says this ban could keep energy costs higher because that's the goal. You know, under Barack Obama, you remember Barack Obama famously said, under his plan of cap and trade, electricity costs would necessarily skyrocket.
Under my plan of a cap and trade system, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket.
Yeah, that's their plan. And the Democrats want higher energy price because they're saving the world from the man-made apocalypse. And they're in charge of the climate because of demented ego problems that they have. President Biden announced an 11th hour executive action on Monday that bans new drilling and further oil and natural gas development. Natural gas burns much cleaner, too. On more than 625 million acres of U.S. coastal and offshore waters. This is terrorists couldn't inflict damage like this. The Democrats are not on our side. And this phony, we're going to save the world by making energy more expensive. Their rich friends laugh. They don't care. They fly around on private jets. They do it themselves. The Clintons fly around private everywhere they go. Don't be ridiculous. Somebody else's plane, somebody else paying for it. If it's Russians, the New York Times doesn't care. If it's the Chinese, The Washington Post doesn't care. It's amazing. But they're going to save the world. The big lie. The big lie. All right, let's go back to the because that's just, that is deliberate subterfuge, sabotage of not just Trump, but it's targeting Trump. The American economy and the American people are being targeted in the crosshairs, in their sights. And we suffer the consequences of these really bad policy ideas and policy decisions, right? Now, the FBI, but you know what? Before we get to Schiff attacking Kash Patel, let's go back to number one, where the dim-witted number 2 woman in the New Orleans FBI field office, the assistant special agent in charge, ASAC, and she came out after the terrorist attack by the Muslim jihadi terrorist and said, oh, no, this is not a terrorist attack. Don't even suggest that this is a terrorist attack because it's not even close.
This is not a terrorist event. What it is right now is their improvised explosive devices that was found, and we are working on confirming if it's a viable device or not.
The multiple devices were found, and whether it's a viable device or not, singular, plural, that always annoys me. And it's not a terrorist attack. He ran over dozens of people, murdering, maiming, destroying, started shooting at the police, shot 2 police, and left 2 improvised explosive devices like you might find in Afghanistan or Iraq during the war. But it's not a terrorist attack. That is truly amazing stuff, I've got to say. And then this was yesterday, the Deputy Director for Counterterrorism Division, Christopher Araya at the FBI, came out in this terrorist Jabbar.
All investigative details and evidence that we have now still support that Jabbar acted alone here in New Orleans.
Don't believe it.
We have not seen any indications of an accomplice in the United States, but we are still looking into potential associates in the U.S. and outside of our borders.
This is the problem that we have with the FBI, is that, this guy, I don't know Christopher Raya from a doorknob, but he comes out, well, again, take our word for it. And you had the assistant special agent in charge of New Orleans. This is definitely not a terrorist attack with the improvised explosive devices that are multiple or singular, and the shooting the police and the running all the people over, as we've seen in France and in New York and elsewhere with radical Islamic jihadist terrorists doing this. And so this woman with the nose ring in the morning and then in the afternoon press conference had lost her nose ring. She's out there telling us blah, 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 right? And then here's the guy, the special agent in charge. He's the boss of Althea Duncan, who lied to us about it not being a terrorist attack. And her boss, the special agent in charge of the New Orleans FBI office, his name is Lionel Murtill or something. And he was nowhere to be found on New Year's Day. There's a big Sugar Bowl was being played there, New Year's Eve, New Orleans. And he's nowhere to be found. So let's send my number 2 out, and she'll lie to everybody. And then this poor guy with the counterterrorism division, the deputy director of counterterrorism, not even the director, but the deputy director, he's of FBI for counterterrorism, Christopher Ryan. He's like, hey, he acted alone. But I'm sorry, anything you say, I have to think, well, maybe the opposite is true. So here's the special agent in charge who was absent day 1, Lionel Murtill.
On New Year's morning, Jabbar parked the truck and walked to Royal and Governor Nichols Street. Jabbar placed the first IED in the cooler at Bourbon and St. Peter Street at 1:53 a.m. Jabbar placed the second IED in a bucket-type cooler at 2:20 a.m. on Bourbon and Toulouse Streets.
All right. And they're just, it's the FBI used to be such a tight, well-run organization, reliable, trusty organization. And the left has ruined it. The left has destroyed the FBI. We should probably scrap it and start over again with a different federal law enforcement agency or something. But President Trump plans on putting Kash Patel in charge of the FBI. And now new Senator Adam Schiff on Meet the Press yesterday, he will oppose Kash Patel with every fiber of his corrupt being.
Well, first of all, Kash Patel should not be confirmed. And I think the terrorist attack in New Orleans and my heart goes out to those who have lost loved ones in that attack.
His heart goes
just
out.
underscores again the importance of having someone directing the FBI that has experience, that has judgment, that has character, that will prioritize defending the country against the violence we saw in New Orleans or the violence we saw on January 6th. Not someone whose top priority is political vendettas, who believes in deep state conspiracy thinking.
Believes in deep
who
state.
Is as unqualified as Kash Patel.
Wow. You're the most unqualified U.S. senator we've had perhaps in my lifetime. You're the biggest liar in Washington, D.C. You proved it 1,000 times. He's the Russian collusion boy. Oh, I've been in the classified briefings. I've gotten the classified briefings on the information about Trump colluding with the Russians, Russian collusion. It was all a lie. He lied thousands and thousands of times on live TV to CNN, and they gave him a tongue bath and blah, blah, blah. Just amazing. Adam Schiff, trashing, and he's a racist if he were a Republican and Kash Patel were the Democrat nominee. And just like if you opposed Kamala Harris, that's because she's a woman of color. And that's it. That's their only answer to everything. The party of slavery, the Democrat Party. Adam Schiff.
Kash Patel is an easy one. He should not be confirmed. The others, Marco Rubio, I think Emily well qualified. Several of the other nominees.
Emily?
Again, we should follow that regular process that the majority leader has laid out. But that one should be an easy one.
That rigor process? Well, see, I'll vote for another member of the United States Senate because that's just amazing stuff. Man, oh, man. I'm telling you. I haven't even mentioned it. We're almost 3 hours into this. We got some snow in Washington, D.C. today. There was a little bit of a snowstorm. It's very pretty. It's the snow. This morning I got up and I went and had breakfast with my best girl and got caught up on the news. Went down, got in my car, drove to work, came into the building and, doing my job because it snowed. And it's not snowpocalypse or snowmageddon, I think, but Washington, D.C. is shut down. The government is shut down, but they still have to come in because, they've got the election thing today. It's January 6th, and what happens then. I hope the Democrats don't loot anything today, as they're so fond of doing. A Republican Senator John Thune, incoming leader of the United States Senate, South Dakota senator, on Face the Nation yesterday, talking about President Trump's nominees and how the Senate will confirm them.
His picks are going to come through a process where if they get reported out of the committee, come across the floor of the Senate, we'll make sure that they get the vote. And I think that I suspect a lot of them will get through. And we'll see about all of them. Remains to be seen.
And I'd like to revise and extend my remarks, clean up the grammar on that one. Lindsey Graham on the confirmation process, which ought to be interesting because the Democrats are here to savage the country. But Tulsi Gabbard and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Kash Patel, and Pete Hegseth among them. Lindsey Graham.
I want to do them sooner rather than later. When President Trump left office, we had the most secure border in American history. The caliphate was destroyed, ISIS was destroyed, and Iran was in a box. We killed Soleimani, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard leader. The last 4 years have been a friggin' disaster. They rolled back every policy that worked on the border. They went back into the Iran nuclear agreement, giving out to hundreds of millions of dollars is used for terrorism.
And maybe chop. Let's get this done quick, huh?
The confirmations, do them now, do them quick. Get them all done in January, February. We need our team on the field. We need an FBI director. We need an attorney general. We need them all. Get it done. We got to get it done. We're under attack here. We're at war.
Get her done. Get her done. Yeah, and they're still in denial about radical Islam. All right, the attack in New Orleans, New Year's Eve. They're still in denial. Decades later, they still haven't learned about jihad and radical Islam. Aren't they amazing? And then we got another self-immolating Democrat at the Trump Hotel in an Elon Musk vehicle. And they're trying to tell us, oh, no, he's a Trump guy. They do this every time. Every time they do this. Wah, wah, wah. Make the lie so big no one would dare not believe it. Now, Joe Biden, again, gave the Presidential Medal of Freedom inexplicably to George Soros, destroyer of worlds, because Charles Manson's dead. So, remarkable stuff. And at the event at the White House, the reporters asked him pointed questions like, is Donald Trump a threat to democracy? Those are the kind. Actually, let's play it. It's only 7 seconds. This is about the news media.
Do you still believe he's a threat to democracy?
I think what he did was a genuine threat to democracy.
Yes. Do you still believe Trump is a threat to democracy? Because you're passing the torch without even burning the White House down. Well, what he did was a threat. Yeah, he got a record number of votes while never campaigning. Isn't that amazing? And then he's a crusty old man. He's cursing at the reporters.
The only thing, by being the oldest president, I know more world leaders than any one of you ever met in your whole life.
What? I'm sorry? What? What is that is your whole gosh darn life? Isn't that amazing? Which brings us then to Chuck Schumer on Meet the Press yesterday with Kristen Welker, a Democrat plaything. And, hey, how's Joe Biden's brain?
I want to play you a little bit of something you said last year. Take a look.
I talk to President Biden, regularly, sometimes several times in a week, or usually several times in a week. His mental acuity is great.
Leader Schumer, what do you say to Americans who feel as though you and other top Democrats misled them about President Biden's mental acuity?
Look, we didn't.
Look, we didn't. No, he lied. He continues to lie. Schumer is the lizard king. His tongue is hanging out of his mouth like a cartoon lizard. He lies about everything. And the news media, they're in on it. They're getting their invitations.